As we look into Soviet foreign policy from 1917 to 1941, a complex and multifaceted picture comes into focus. This transformative period, characterized by upheavals and shifts in global dynamics, reveals the Soviet Union's delicate dance between ideology and practical considerations. So, let's get into it, I guess. In the transformative years from 1917 to 1941, the Soviet Union, born from the Russian Revolution, not only reshaped its internal landscape, but also left an enduring impact globally. Central to this transformation was Soviet foreign policy, a dynamic force shaped by ideology, geopolitics, and key personalities. This video explores the evolution of Soviet foreign policy, highlighting pivotal events and individuals. We'll delve into the influence of Marxism-Leninism on the Soviet Union's global interactions, unraveling the complexities of this period and its significance in the broader context of international relations. So now you have some backstory. Let's start with the impact of the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution of 1917, with its seismic shift in governance, reverberated far beyond the borders of the vast Eurasian nation. Winston Churchill, reflecting on its global impact, remarked, "The Russian Revolution shook the world, and its waves reached the farthest shores." The overthrow of the provisional government and the establishment of the Soviet government marked a radical departure in international relations, ushering in an era of ideological fervor and geopolitical realignments. As the nascent Soviet government grappled with its identity, it sought solidarity with like-minded movements worldwide. The ideological underpinnings of the revolution found resonance in the works of prominent intellectuals. Bertrand Russell, for instance, observed, "The Russian Revolution became the beacon of hope for those who believed in a fundamental restructuring of society." The international left looked to Moscow for inspiration, and socialist movements worldwide saw the Russian Revolution as a catalyst for change. Interwar turbulence and key events. Navigating through the turbulent interwar period, the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in 1918 emerged as a defining moment. As historian Barbara Tuchman noted, the treaty redrew maps with a stroke, altering the geopolitical landscape of Europe and Asia. This attempt to extricate Russia from the horrors of World War I had profound consequences, not only reshaping alliances but also creating fault lines that would contribute to future conflicts. The Russian Civil War from 1918 to 1922 further intensified the challenges. Foreign powers seeking to shape the outcome intervened in the conflict, transforming it into a global battleground. E. H. Carr, in his seminal work on the interwar period, noted, "The Russian Civil War was not merely a struggle for power within Russia, but a stage for conflicting ideologies and geopolitical ambitions." Soviet foreign policy, amid this chaos, became a complex dance of consolidating power, domestically while managing intricate relationships with foreign entities. Now it's time for the man of the hour, Mr. Joseph Stalin. Let's look into his rise of power. At the heart of this tumultuous period was the rise of Joseph Stalin, a figure who would leave an indelible mark on the course of Soviet history. Stalin's leadership, characterized by a pragmatic and assertive approach to foreign affairs, marked a departure from earlier internationalist principles. His socialism in one country policy, encapsulated in his famous phrase, "We are 50 to 100 years behind the advanced countries. We must make good this distance in 10 years," underscored a focus on internal consolidation over international revolution. Stalin's personality-driven diplomacy significantly shaped Soviet foreign policy. Robert Service was quoted saying, "Stalin's diplomatic strategy was marked by a mix of cunning and ruthlessness, reflecting his deep-seated belief in the necessity of securing the Soviet Union against external threats." This approach influenced alliances, military strategies, and the priorities of the Soviet Union on the global stage, leaving a lasting impact on the trajectory of international relations during the first half of the 20th century. Now it's time to evaluate the influence of ideology. We'll start with competing visions and tensions, then move on to influence on foreign policy decisions. Let's get started. At the core of Soviet foreign policy were competing visions that often tugged the nation in different directions. The tension between nationalist considerations and communist ideology presented a delicate balance that leaders had to navigate. The question of whether to prioritize the well-being of the Soviet state or champion the global communist cause defined much of the decision-making during this era. Influence on foreign policy decisions. To understand the tangible impact of ideology, we examine specific foreign policy decisions shaped by these ideological considerations. From the signing of treaties to the formation of alliances, every move on the international stage bore the imprint of the ideological convictions held by figures such as Stalin, Lenin, Trotsky, and others. Their words, immortalized in quotes, provide a window into the mindset that guided these decisions. Evolution of ideological landscape. The ideological landscape was not static, but underwent significant shifts over time. Changes in leadership, such as the transition from Lenin to Stalin, brought about nuanced alterations in the ideological approach to foreign relations. Simultaneously, global events, such as economic crises and the rise of fascism, prompted recalibrations in Soviet ideology as the nation sought to safeguard its interests amidst a rapidly changing world. The legacy of ideological tensions. The divergent visions that shaped Soviet foreign policy reflect the intricate balance of nationalism and communist ideals. This tension, evident in every diplomatic move and strategic choice, highlights the formidable challenges faced by leaders like Stalin, Lenin, and Trotsky as they tried to carve out the Soviet Union's place on the world stage while staying true to revolutionary principles. Dynamic shifts and evolving landscapes. The evolving ideological landscape, influenced by changes in leadership and global events, adds layers of complexity to our understanding. From the idealism of the early post-revolution years to the practicality of Stalin's socialism in one country, the ideological foundations of Soviet foreign policy were a dynamic force, adapting to the twists and turns of history. Lessons from history. As we ponder this historical chapter, it imparts valuable lessons for comprehending contemporary geopolitics. The interplay between ideology and practicality, a recurring theme in Soviet foreign policy, echoes in the diplomatic challenges faced by nations today. This exploration serves as a reminder that foreign policy is a nuanced blend of ideals, national interests, and the ever-shifting currents of global affairs. In concluding our journey, we've peeled back the layers of history to unveil a narrative of ideological passion, strategic maneuvering, and the lasting impact of a nation finding its footing in a swiftly changing world. The intricacies of Soviet foreign policy from 1917 to 1941 present a captivating tableau for further investigation, inviting scholars and enthusiasts to delve into the complexities of a pivotal era in international relations. Thank you for accompanying me through these historical corridors.